Hi, hello, this is JulesTheHuman here, and welcome to the JulesTheHuman Anime Hour. I'm one of your hosts, JulesTheHuman, and every week we dive into an anime, we watch a little bit of it, and then we come back here and discuss it and give you our thoughts. And this week we were talking about a brand new anime called Black Summoner. If this is the first time that you're watching, welcome to the show. We've done quite a bit of anime in the past, and we go ahead and rank them on this list. We just got done with Tokyo Revengers, and we watched that, gave it an A, and here were all the other anime that we've gone through. So if this is your first time watching, go back and watch all the anime we've talked about, because we've done so many. We have so much more to come, but I don't go on this anime journey alone. I go on it with my co-host, Matt Galley. Matt, how are you doing today?
I am so great. This is a very interesting show to be watching. I have a lot of things to say about it. They're mostly not good, but I do have a lot of things to say for sure.
All right. So like I said, we have so many more to go, because you can submit 500 bits on the Twitch live stream. We do these on Wednesday nights now, and you can submit 500 bits, and we can, let me see if that's the right button. There's the button. 500 bits to submit an anime if you'd like. If you like the anime, you can give it to us.
Add in there that got added last time, I believe.
Oh, true. Okay, yes. So I haven't had an updated list yet. I do got to take out Black Summoner, but these are all the anime that are coming up. There's some more that got submitted as well. But I'm excited to keep watching anime with you, and hopefully you're watching along, because we only do 4 episodes each. So this episode we're going to be talking about 1 through 4 of Black Summoner. And hello everybody coming in the Twitch live chat. Hello, we see you. Nice to see you. We got to get talking about Black Summoner, because again, this is the first time that we're talking about this anime. We're going to finish the first season and then move on, but we got to get through it. Black Summoner, episode 1, Reincarnated Without Memories. Matt, what happened in episode 1?
In episode 1, we are introduced to Kelvin, who has been chosen at random to be reincarnated into a new world. Trading his memories for an extra starting boost in this world, and also a super rare summoner class, Kelvin, with the help of his first contracted servant, Melfina, the goddess of reincarnation, makes his way into town and joins the Adventurers Guild in order to make some money. Later on, contracting a slime and then naming them Clotho, Kelvin is excited to take on adventure in this new world.
Yippee! It's an isekai. That was the first thing I wrote on my list. I was like, oh boy, another isekai. But
they're isekai.
Here we go. First thoughts though. First off, with this episode, I thought it looked gorgeous. Nothing right off the bat. I was just like, this looks beautiful. Love the colors. It's so bright and vibrant, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Like this is a show made in 2022. I was like, okay, this is cool. It looks great, and I was like, ready for this anime to look beautiful. I mean, it starts off in a token isekai fashion. Let me ask you this.
It greatly lightens the isekai load. Like, we all know Sword Art Online being the first one to really popularize isekai, and you get the whole introduction of the real world before they go into the isekai existence. But this just doesn't stop, or it doesn't waste any time, and it just in media reses you right when the moment of Kelvin being reincarnated into this new world.
And it doesn't take the route, while I'm still a little confused because they haven't spent a lot of time on it. It doesn't take the route where, as you mentioned, Sword Art Online, where you're isekai'd into a video game and you have the video game stat board, stat sheets, whatever, all that stuff. Apparently for this one, Melfina, who is the servant now, the goddess of reincarnation, put Kelvin into another world. So this is here's Earth, I guess. They haven't really explained it. Here's Earth, and then he died somehow by some mistake that happened, which I'm sure hopefully we can get into later on when we know more information. But some mistake happened. He died, and he got isekai'd into a different world. So this is another world living in our universe, I suppose. How did you take that?
That's kind of how I felt once he said something along the lines of, "Why do you seem like you know so much about video games too?" That's kind of what I started
Yeah,
to think that it's more so doing.
but it
But
doesn't.
it doesn't really distinctly tell us,
No,
really.
and it doesn't.
The way how everything operates, like there's menu boards popping up and stuff, and the way that they're talking about like partying up, and yeah, Melfina says, if the slime wants to join your party, or if the creature wants to join your party, blah blah blah. Like she's like saying that with air quotes. So
But then we have him, and I thought we were only going to see it for him, to where he can only pull up his skill points or skill sheets or whatever. But then I see other adventurers doing it as well, right?
mhm.
Later on, we see other people doing it. So this is incorporated into their world. So why not just say a video game? What's the difference between them saying it's a video game world versus this is the real
The
world?
weight of killing somebody,
Okay, sure.
the weight of, that the fact that we get introduced to in the second episode, we get introduced to a murderer,
Yeah.
whereas something in when we saw that concept handled in Sword Art Online, they were a PKer, a player killer, which
Hmm.
holds a different weight than
Than a
murderer.
murderer, I suppose. But in that situation as well, they would die as well as a PKer.
Does he die if he hits zero?
I don't know.
They don't really talk about that.
No. So it's setting up as a different world. Um, we get the introduction of Cloud. Oh, before we get into that, what I was gonna ask was, there's so much isekai content,
Yeah,
and I really
it
don't
really
wanna, like,
is.
just completely shit on this anime or anything, because there are some things where I'm like, "Okay, that's kinda cool," and I'm
Yes.
enjoying it somewhat. But,
It
like,
does things.
it does things. But as an isekai made anime in 2022, why did it take so long to get us settled into this concept? Or do you think it's a good thing that they took so long explaining all this stuff? Because right now I'm like, I've already seen so many isekais. I'm like, I know how it works. Let's just get going.
I mean, it really takes this first episode to introduce us to the world building, I guess, but
Uh,
then the character building in that what is his what's his progression, what's his power level, what is the scaling, I guess. And for
sure.
him it's going to be like, what allies can I get? And I
Hmm.
think that's what the show ultimately wants to do by the end of this first episode, is introduce to us to, oh, summoners are rare, so he's one of the only one of them, and then he can do these crazy things with allies that he gets, but
Uh-huh.
inherently he's not very powerful by himself on his own ground. At least initially, we see him like start to level up like crazy, and then he's leveling like royal guardsmen and a single green mage like wind attack, but that's
Yeah.
later on.
So yeah, we do, like you said, get some valuable information about him being one of the only summoners, and that none of the other summoners are as powerful as him. It's sort of like an
He's
overlord
the only S
situation.
class summoner in this world
Sure, it's
right now.
another, like, overlord situation where we've seen overlord before, where this guy is the best one on the server, and now he's going to test his strength, or try and do something, and it's sort of the same thing.
It's
And
very
like,
similar. It's very
yeah,
similar for
very
sure.
similar. But like, do we need another one like this? I don't know. Like, I'm
Some people, all they want is to, read the next light novel, even though it's the same story that they've probably read before. Like it's just
okay.
something else for them to consume property wise with a few different characters, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but like, yeah, does it really add anything like valuable, new, et cetera? Probably not.
Because I'm waiting for that. That's what
Yeah.
I'm waiting for. I'm like, why would, again, meta talking about it, because we go through so many anime, so much different content, and this only has one season. Well, granted, it's just came out not too long ago, but like, the big picture outside of the anime, what story are we trying to tell? Are we trying to do the same cookie cutter, make your story, get your story out there? Or are we going to say something eventually that changes or revolutionizes our way of thinking in a certain way? Or do they add some new aspect of this sort of type of anime, or is it just going to be like another harem anime? I
Sure.
don't know, but I'm
There are
hoping
some
for.
tendencies that are being displayed that definitely make me lean towards thinking one way rather than the other,
I'm
but I'm trying to
hoping
give it the benefit
for.
of the doubt
That's what
as
I'm
a
saying.
critiquer, as somebody who is trying to watch this objectively,
Uh huh.
um and not subjectively. Like, does it have anything of value inherently without, like, comparing it to contemporaries? And right so far, I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does.
That's what I'm battling as well, because I don't know if, without watching all of the other stuff I've already seen, would I judge it the same way? And I'm trying to come to it with fresh eyes. And while they do explain the idea of an isekai well, and they explain his progression, and they go into depth about how the guild levels are, how he can I guess be able to summon something or a monster, as they say it, and they fight on their team, and then he has the 100 plus 100 stats, and it's sort of like Pokemon a little bit, and it's like, okay, this is
And
cute.
he himself says, oh, that he's that strong, just a blue slime. Like, this kind of feels a little overpowered, and that is one of the tropes of isekais, that you make the main protagonist, like, they're overpowered for some reason. And we can keep drawing the parallel all day. In Sword Art Online's reason, it was because he was a beta tester, so he knew all the ins and outs of the games before anybody else did. And in this one's case, it's that he sold his memories to get more bonus points walking in the door. And then he set himself up to just garner crazy amount of skill ups over time. So his
But in
progression is just exponentially exploding.
automatically in the beginning, though, it sets this seed about the previous him, about him not remembering anything from the past, about him
Mhm.
being reincarnated by a goddess into another world, and that automatically wants makes me want to know what happened, and what was his world before. Was his world, how similar was his world to how he can level up with, I'm pretty sure this is all just video game stuff, like I'm sure in the real
He
world, quote
says it a couple
unquote.
times. Yeah, I must have been like a big video gamer.
Yeah, that he wanted to go, and why choose this world? Why, well, okay, there's another question later on. Why did Melfina send other people to this world as well? Like, there's a lot of questions here about why he didn't want to remember, why this world, what was he trying to accomplish before all of this, and will he have that same motivation later on? I don't know, because um I really hope they get into it. I don't know how much they will, which kind of
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah,
So he died because of a god's mistake, and he ends up getting, it was a good first episode. Hey,
yeah.
one episode down, what would you keep going, do you think?
Yeah, like, at this point, like, I keep going, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in for the setup, at least intrigued, but like I said, it just, I can't help but, like, have those mental, like, red flags go up, like cookie cutter, very tropey. Like, I'm
Especially when we get,
calling,
when
especially when you
especially,
get that
yeah,
the elf slave in the peddlers, um in the slave peddlers thing. That's
sure.
just like it's definitely like, yeah, it starts to begin to get into those, like, yeah, those hard questions of, if you're trying to just tell such a light and not brief, but like a very light and non-thematic, heavy, I guess, like
Hmm.
cookie cutter essentially story, don't put like heavy themes and stuff like slavery and slave trading in it, because you're making this fantasy world and it's your decisions on what to and to not include in this
Sure.
fantasy world. If you want to add stuff like that, it should be held, and it should be treated with some sort of like integral, sorry, it should be treated with some sort of levity, with some sort
Mhm.
of weight. And I feel like that into these episodes, the whole concept of like slaves being in this world is kind of just very brushed over, and that is something that just doesn't set up in my head for a good narrative later on. If they're going to just handle something as heavy as slavery so lightly, what else are they really going to handle that might, normally be thematically heavy, need a lot of time for a narrative to really flesh out characters and handle them with gravity, but then it's just going to brush over something really lightly.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on by the end of these 4 episodes entirely. And but by the end of the first episode, I'm sorry, like I digress. By the end of the first episode, like I'm on board to see where it's going.
Especially for Clotho.
Clotho is best boy so far. Episode
So
1 Clotho will always live in my heart.
so episode 1 ends off with them going on and he's going to start his adventure. So episode 2, Dark Knight, what happens in Black Summoner episode 2?
Kelvin is quickly making his way up the ranks of the Adventurers Guild running solo, which begins to garner attention. A seemingly shrewd adventurer by the name Cashel would invite Kelvin into joining a party on a mission. Kelvin declining, sensing alter motives, as well as spotting the title murderer in Cashel's stat block.
Mm-hmm.
Cashel and his cronies would attempt to spring a trap on Kelvin after he poses them a challenge. But the turns would be quickly tabled as Kelvin cleans them up, going on to challenge the Black Ghost Knight that was originally their challenge. Kelvin would do battle with the knight Gerard, who would regain his memories after the battle mounts, leading Kelvin and Clotho to pull off their combination limit break attack. Kelvin would turn in the quest for defeating the Black Ghost Knight, as well as claiming the bounty on Cashel and crew, contracting Gerard off screen. Also, then being invited to meet the Guildmaster, Kelvin is introduced to a new face.
Whoa! So we meet some new characters. Got some little fun stuff. We meet Cashel, and they are immediately just painted murderer on their stat sheet. Again, with the incorporation of the eye. What did he say it was?
Oh yes, his
His
I forget his
one of
appraising
his
eye is
appraising
his appraising
eye.
eye is like one of his big things that he has, because an appraising eye S, you can see things up to 100 levels higher than you. So he can see anybody from 1 to 100, all of their stats.
Mm-hmm. And then we see later somebody else having it, and just the incorporations of a stat sheet, sort of, to
And
explain you away.
if your concealment rank is higher than somebody's appraising eye rank, you cannot see through them. So even Cashel, when he goes back to his cronies, one of the guys is like, "Hey, I can't. His concealment's high, dude. I don't know if we're in
And
over our heads here."
and that's the kind of stuff I like. I like when gamified things happen in an anime. That's a lot of fun for me, where it's like this stat is so high so I can do this, or this stat covers up this stat. Like whenever they're talking about like the nitty gritty, like HP power or magic power, I'm like, yeah, that's what I like. I like all that little silly stuff
Yeah,
in an anime, and they're incorporating that quite heavily already in the first 2 episodes. The Black Ghost Knight is there. That's going to be his next opponent that he's going to go after, but this whole situation between Cashel and him, and he instantly just devours them all with
yeah.
the aid of now Glatonia
Latonia Clotho.
Clotho. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is like super
He
powered
just be
companion
munching.
already. It's crazy. It looked really cool though.
It did.
I really did like it.
That's one thing that I agree with you that you already mentioned, is that the show looks great visually. Up to this point, it looks great. And then in this episode, you have the battle where it cuts to CG.
Didn't want to talk about that. But first I want to talk about we got our first intro, right? I think we got our first
Oh yeah, we get the
intro.
intro. Yeah.
Looks great. I
The
love the
gradients
intro.
are amazing. Yeah, all the
Is
colors and everything. And that is where, like, I kind of, before we even get introduced to the Black Knight Ghost, I'm like, oh, he's gonna be a companion. It's like he's in the intro
because it
with
already
everybody
shows all the
else.
companions
Yeah.
pretty much, and it shows the red-haired girl that we just see later as a companion already, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, what are these episodes then? We already know what's gonna happen. Cool. But I do like the intro. The intro is really cool. The song's dope. Big fan of that. And it sets up for like a really cool fun time. But we do gotta talk about the fight with Gerard. Um Black Ghost Knight looks dope. I was like, okay, here we
He
are.
looks good in a vacuum by himself.
What does that mean?
In shots, like when it's just him, or when
Uh,
he's like, like right here when he's posing,
yeah,
and but like once, or even right
that
here,
doesn't look
it's like
good.
it doesn't look good to me because like now my brain's like seeing
uh,
the two and it's like clashing, and then it
also,
gets even worse in the fight when like everything's just kind of CG, and Kelvin just doesn't look good at all in movement.
what's what's the Berserk, I think is what it is. So the anime Berserk, they had a new one. I tried watching it. They had a new like updated Berserk anime that they remade, and I was like, cool, I want to get into this anime that a ton of people have harkened back to, and it's one of the best manga, and they make these beautiful booklets of huge, thick Bible looking manga books of the compilations. And I was like, okay, let's start Berserk. And I started, made the mistake, as a lot of people I found out after, made the mistake of starting the newer Berserk, and it had a ton of this CGI. And we've seen this stuff in some of the other anime, like one or two
Yeah.
anime that we've already watched. But that was like, oh
But
my
it's
god,
like
this is so
non-action scenes, I think, at least, because I know one of them's like Zombieland Saga, so it's like whatever, they're dancing around,
they're
they're
dancing
just
around, they
doing
were
their thing.
CG. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever, that's fine.
But the
But when
in the
it's like a battle scene, it's like that's the bread and butter of battle anime, and you're gonna cut out the 2D animation. Like imagine parts of Overlord if they had been CG instead of how Overlord handled the fights with like the even the
I think there
dragons.
was one,
I
the
think there was like
dragon.
they might have been like a 3D model, but like the entire environment and like the
No.
other characters, they were still 2D animated, and like they made that part work, but all the rest of the parts of Overlord, if I'm not mistaken, were 2D animated because I
Yeah.
don't remember us talking about it. Um, and yeah, it was like when the guy came out and started using the martial arts skills and like chopping through hordes of enemies, and
Mhm.
that stuff looks totally different if you take away the 2D, hand drawn animation aspect of it, and you make it 3D rendered.
So this
So when
is
the entire scene is built around it,
I do got
that whole part falls to the ground,
it
in my
was some
opinion.
of the better CG animation that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, okay, they're trying. It clearly was trying to do something and to make it look more spectacular, but I don't know if we're there yet for CG anime just yet, because especially when you're mixing going back and
like a
forth.
cutscene out of the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 generation. I'm sorry.
Sure, when you're
Like it
going back to
really looks like that way to me.
these super like lush, like cool looking, vibrant colors, and then you go to CGI for like the whole big fight scene. And granted, I'm pretty sure if that fight scene was the way it was, like normal made, like the rest of the anime, the rest of the episode, that would look dope. I would have
Yeah.
been like, yo, this is cool. But the instant switch
This
to
is what
it,
we've been waiting
yeah, this
for.
is it. I'm like, okay, action, let's go. But the switch to CG was just so wild. And I was like, this isn't hitting for me. I don't know what it is. I mean, they did some pretty cool stuff, like this whole huge shot. Like, yes, that's cool. I love it. But then with Wish Kiriko here or Kirito here, I could not. I just couldn't. And that fight really let me down. I was just really sad about it. But then we also, as well, some stuff that this anime does pretty good. We get the whole exposition between the Black Ghost Knight
Yeah,
about
honestly.
his family, about his king that he served, about his daughter. That whole thing was so good. I was like,
Well,
oh
the
god,
kingdom he served in its entirety fell in, I think he said, about a week.
yeah. And then him sort of like wrestling with that. We have better exposition and plot drive than what we have for the main character, which is
Mhm.
kind of wild, because I want to follow Gerard to the end of the earth to help
Mhm.
him like figure this out, find his daughter. Or his daughter's not alive, right? I don't think.
Think
No,
it's her
he's
implied
just
death happened in that screenshot I grabbed of him.
and he's
Or
just a
before that, up to that point, he was just kind of carrying her, and that's when he realizes, and
I
that's his breaking point, and then he like Then he went off in battle, and like it was a cool moment. Don't get me wrong. Like the this like the high notes are high, but it gets pulled back by other things that the show is doing. And I think if it just really knew what it wanted to be, if it wanted to be a light isekai, or if it wants to be a more like grounded, like character focused shonen battle anime, however you want to word that
Because
out.
yeah, because it
Is it
could.
are you trying to be a demon slayer, or are you trying to be a sword art online, or like what's it called? The uh I got reincarnated as a slime, etc.
Sure.
Shows like that, you know?
I think this is just the amalgamation again of all of a lot of different anime. We talked about this before in other anime that we've watched, but um, this is just a lot of different things together, and I really think they could excel in one of them, but they're trying with the slime as the guy, as the little guy next to you, and it's like, oh, I read the slime mangas; those are funny, those are cool, and then we get some interesting action stuff, and we get this video game esque storyline where he gets sent to another world, and then we get like enough harem stuff to make me a little uncomfy, but then they don't go all the way and show things. And it's like, you can't give us little tastes of everything because
Yeah,
then it
they have a
just
character.
becomes
They have a main character who has this like actual moral sense, I guess you could say. So he doesn't take advantage of advantageous situations presented to him. So it tries to brush that stuff by aside. But again, it's like, why are you putting it there in the
yeah.
first
Then
place?
just don't show it.
Just don't have it. Just don't
Yeah.
have it. You don't need it there.
And then we get like some really good exposition, like we do with the Black Ghost Knight, but like then he gets put into the head of all of these other ones, and it's just silly, funny goofs again. And it's like, well, what are we doing? What's going on? So I think
Yep.
it is, like you said, a little confused on the direction of where they wanted to go, but also trying to be a whole lot of things
Yeah.
all at once. Let's talk about episode 3. Feel like we're gonna have a lot to talk about for episode 3. A secret shared with a guild and a slave girl. So what happens in Black Summoner? Again, if you're just joining, we talk about anime here. We talk about a couple episodes of anime every week. So hit that subscribe, follow button, or subscribe button if you're watching later on YouTube. But we're talking about Black Summoner, episode 3. What happened?
We get to see the contract with Gerard being made before taking us back to meet Leo, who shows he too has an appraising eye skill. Being that Kelvin wants to make new friends instead of enemies, Leo and Kelvin leverage their weight before Leo poses a deal: protect this town, and your secret stays as such. Accepting the terms, Kelvin looks to grow the size of his party, so he makes a purchase from a slave peddler that he had seen prior, specifically an elf who's cursed to set ablaze anyone who touches her. Ethel introduces herself to Kelvin after he purchases her, before he would break the curse, leaving her reeling in tears. Taking her back to the inn that he has made his base camp, they have dinner before heading to their, for some reason, shared bed for the night.
Well, Matt, there was only one bed in the inn
Well,
left.
you know, there's only one bed
Matt,
in the room, so
so
that's just we gotta sleep
of
in the same
course
bed.
they got to sleep in
Obviously,
the same
there's
bed.
no other solutions.
Matt, I don't
There's
know what
no
you're
other rooms in this inn that's designed for new adventures.
uh,
There's not a single other
not a
spare
single room,
room
but
in
we
here.
never
There's
see
not
anybody in the
another
inn.
single spare room in this town at any other inn in this city.
But again, in that inn, we see nobody there ever at all. It's just them three eating, and there's nobody in that inn, but there's no other rooms available.
Innkeeper sees him bring in a girl wearing just rags, no questions.
So
I'm
before all
just gonna
that,
go pretty her up for
sure,
you and put her in a maid's outfit for
I
some
take her to your
reason.
room.
Are you a maid? I guess you're a maid now.
Before all that, because I do want to get to the
I'm
other
sorry.
stuff. Leo, no, for sure, because there's a lot of things happening there. Um, wait, is that okay. I don't like anime. All right, see ya.
Right now,
Okay.
neither do I.
Yeah. Leo can see who Kelvin actually is because his appraisal eye is higher than him. So higher than his concealment. So again, I like that stuff. I like that he can see through him and he knows exactly. And I like the way that he went about the business. Like even Kelvin questioned, he's like, "That's a lot stacked for me," and he's like, "Well, I want to get you on my side before." So he is. I do like Leo as a character because he is like a tactician,
Yeah.
um, like that
It make like
knows.
he's a believable character in this world. Of course, the guild master would be somebody with like some sense of cunning and guile, having adventurers come in and out where he's the one, kind of signing their checks at the end of the day, so to speak.
And
It
I
it
really like that.
Yeah, it makes
I
sense that on his little title card, he's given the title of the analyzer. And yeah, so it
oh,
all makes sense.
I didn't
It
have
all makes
time to
sense.
look that through. Yeah, and we do see that he's pretty high level,
Mhm.
but he is a little older. Well, I don't know how long a lifespan is in this world, but he is 54, a little older, I suppose, than what he Kelvin is. But then we also get more information about um, the whole heroes of the Holy Empire of Doremus. Um, they're also from another world, in that the goddess of reincarnation did put them there at one point. And was this the episode where she goes to the priestess?
Next episode.
Next episode? Okay.
Or
So
next
they
episode.
give some information in this episode about the priestess holding the word of God, and that there's another Demon King resurrection, because there's been a couple Demon King
We
resurrections and stuff like that. So we do get some more backstory about
we did
the
get
the
that, yeah.
under things of what's going on and what's actually happening and what could propel the story forward. And the priestess summoned pretty heroes that Melfina reincarnated for them. So they were reincarnated again to this world, way before Kelvin, I suppose. And we do get to see them later on. We have Claire saying, him buying the one slave, ignoring others, and never commenting on it did bother me. But then I realized the story and characters were all paper thin, and it wasn't any more ignored than anything else. Yes. So I wanted to get through all that so we could talk about that. He went to the one. He was like, I saw you looking at me earlier, and let's go with that one. And
He also but as he's walking up, he says, he said something like, "I've learned that slaves are not able to allocate their skill points without permission from their masters," or something like that. Some super weird made up rule in this world that somebody invented. Anyways, so he's talking about that rule, and then he goes, "So I want a slave who's," and in his words, "I want a slave who's never been touched before." And so he strolls back up. He sees her and probably remembering that he's seen her before, but realizing that she's somebody that sets anybody on fire that touches her. He then asks Melfina, "What do I need to do to get rid of that curse?" And she's like, "Well, you need level 9 white magic." And he's like, "All right." And he walks away. He just walks away at that point. And he comes back later and then buys her.
Yeah, because he has that spell or whatever it is. But the thing that got me was that he literally exclaimed, "I'm gonna buy a female slave."
Yeah, out in the
And
courtyard
it was
when other
like,
people like even looked at him funny.
if you're trying to build your main character, I suppose, to be for us to be on his side, I suppose, and for us to, like, I don't know, imprint ourselves into this broken shell of a character, like saying that kind of stuff for, I guess, a supposed laugh, that like, oh my god, I can't believe he said that. Not cool, not okay to say. It's very odd, and I was like, oh really? It's like we're doing that. That's crazy. And I don't want to say like this is what I would do, but like in a situation like this for a main character, you would think they would be like, "Oh, that's a slaver. Let me take him out so that he doesn't do this again." Or but he just kind of goes along like Claire says, like he just kind of goes along like, "Oh, these are the rules of the city. These are the rules of the world. I'm okay with this." Or not even questioning, maybe to even Leo, like, "Hey, what's this about? Why do we have this? What's going on?" He just like, "Oh, okay. Well, I want this one because of my own
Yeah,
reasons."
this dude's like dealing in an alley and he doesn't even question the legitimacy of it.
And
He's
it's
just like, "All right."
it was just super odd. And then for him to leave the other ones there and just be like, okay, la la la, I got my one. Here we are. He doesn't even blink. Yeah, he's just like, okay, cool. And it's like, what? I get that you want to use this sort of trope to for your party to come together, But like, if you wanna, we're gonna follow
There's
this main character.
there's quite literally countless other ways to bring a party together without
Yeah,
involving slavery.
sure. Because now we have that in the it's now canon.
Yeah,
It's canon now that there's
part of this
slavery in this
world.
world. And then now that
And in the next episode, he looks at her collar, reminding himself, "Oh yeah, I bought this person with money, and I probably shouldn't abuse that position." That's something the main character has to remind themselves in this story.
before not doing something that could be questionable for them, which is odd, but you will get to
FBI,
that.
open up.
FBI, yeah, for sure. And then the whole "he broke my curse, I love him," all that stuff, it's super tropey, we get it. But him so easily just finding
Yeah,
this spell, so easily being able to break this curse that she thought she's been a slave since she
she
can't
didn't even know
remember
her
and everything.
parents.
She doesn't know her parents and all that stuff. And then to bring her back to the inn and then for the innkeeper to put her into a maid costume. All right. What fantasy are we trying to fulfill here? This is wild. Um didn't like that whole bit. Not
Nope.
a big fan of how we set up Eiffel this episode.
With her introduction now, we have two right two female characters that just or three, because you also have the oh, that's four, the innkeeper as well, and the clerk at the what's it
At
called,
the Adventure
at the
Guild.
end, and all they do in the scenes that they're in is talk about Kelvin.
Yeah.
That's their reason for being involved in the story, is to put him up on a pedestal even further.
What is it called? The Bechdel test?
That's what it's called. I was losing it. Does not pass
Does not the
Bechtel test.
yeah. What is that? Where? Yeah. So they're only there to fulfill this male's reasonings, or they're not having any implication into the story other than helping the main male character. We love stories like that still in anime. Cool beans. It's a great story to tell. Sarcasm. So yeah, this whole bit kind of weird, kind of odd. And I'm kind of torn as well, because like I like the way that they built her up in this next episode, in episode 4, but like it's still tainted. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I love that she became a cool warrior. We're going to talk about it in a bit. But like still this bringing up here, putting in her maid costume and her being okay with it and being fine, and that's her main costume or whatever that she fights in. And I'm like, uh, come on. What are we doing? And now he's her savior, also master.
Yep.
Wild. And they're sleeping in the same bed. Cool, I guess, man. Great stuff. Episode 4, Demon. What happens in Black Summoner episode 4?
So Kelvin and Eiffel both continue to rank up. Ange, the Adventurers Guild clerk, now taking a personal interest in the two of them, invites them out on a date. The next day, while out to get sweets, Kelvin, Eiffel, and Ange are interrupted and harassed by royalty from a surrounding kingdom. Kelvin would quickly deal with the would-be interrupters before we see Melfina addressing Colette, the Oracle of Doramus. Eiffel shows affection towards Kelvin, but he maintains distance, her collar continuing to denote her as a slave. Kelvin and company scout the cards of the summoned heroes before going on to be summoned by the guildmaster, Leo, where in a masterful display of again of leverage, he gets Kelvin to agree to undertake a mission that would have him in the company of an upper demon of S rank power.
Yippee.
Yippee!
He's a hardcore battle junkie. Claire said, I literally gave the premise to ChatGPT and it came up with a better plot than this. Well, I guess we know the future of anime. Oof. So we do find out that it's been 1 month. 1 month has passed since he's been in the world, and he's been ranking up, as well as Eiffel ranking up. And again, those like action shots of her fighting and using her archery skills and all that, so cool.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. It's when it goes to CG, like it did with the Ghost Knight. not so cool. But like the cool action stuff, I'm down for her leveling up. I'm down for her being like a full-fledged companion. As you know, as we fill out the party a little bit, you know, Black
Mhm.
Ghost and I being the tank, her being the support, him being the summoner, and we need a healer, right? It's coming around,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he
But
says that he wanted somebody like as a supportive type, but then like yeah, she's more like a yeah, archery DPS type. I don't know.
yeah, well, I don't know why he didn't train
Well,
her
yeah.
that way, but whatever. But we get new
He's already got
outfits.
green and white magic.
Yippee!
New outfit
They do
alert.
look kinda cute. I was like, "Okay, they're gonna go out, have some sweets, I guess, on a what? On a date, maybe? I don't know. Both of them are dating him? Oh,
They
no.
both try to feed him and things get weird.
How could we ever choose which one? He wants my food." Again, if they're gonna do it, go all the way. You know what I mean? Make the whole anime about that, and then we could be like, "Oh, no, this is not my for me, but this
Exactly.
is this is
But
what
you
it's going
keep
for."
putting a little taste of this stuff around all these other things that don't mix well.
Because we get some cool action stuff. We get a little bit of this whole what is it called? Slice of life stuff where they're going out, hanging out, vibing, whatever, and then it gets like a little odd, and then we get some more action stuff, and then we have the whole thing about her reincarnating it, but the reincarnation goddess Melfina, she tells them not to go meet Kelvin. Well,
Yeah.
she doesn't say that, but she tells them to go the opposite direction. And
Stay
that was the
away from
one
the city
interesting
he's
point.
at.
That was the interesting point for me with Melfina because she's telling all the other ones to stay away. Kelvin obviously thinks he's the only one until this whole situation happens where he finds out about him. But now
And
I'm pretty
see
sure
that
he wants to find the others.
and this alone could have made a more interesting story is if she went to the oracle to tell the oracle that the adventurers need to train harder because of some threat that's beginning to rise from another land, and some summoner is coming into a great power and they need to stop him, something like that, where like Melfina actually has this double motive where she's
Sure.
the one that sent these heroes here to actually stop Kelvin, who's come here first as a part of the Demon King's uh
Resurrection.
return, and he's actually playing a part in it. And maybe then you go on, go on to have Leo be the person who's actually the Demon King incarnate, and
Huh.
Kelvin's actually been helping him the whole time, or something like that. That's already
Matt,
where I
you
think they
got
could have made a more interesting story.
you
But I
got an
know it's
anime
not going that way. I know it's not going there with any of this because that would
in
actually be interesting.
in
And
a
yeah, she's so this is the Oracle of Duramis, who when we see that little map, they're the eastern, but they're the Western Kingdom, and she tells them there's danger coming from the Western continent. So that's another place that we don't even know about yet that she's talking
sure.
about, which is not interesting
Yeah.
because we don't know about them. Make it about the story you've already presented us.
Mhm.
I'm, I'm I'm just saying,
You
like
got a better
you're not putting these parts together that you have right in front of you, and there's it's
there's
yeah.
opportunities that you could have taken to make a interesting, cool thing. I mean, not saying it's 100% out.
Yeah,
I
not
mean, Leo
saying
could end up being the Demon King,
yeah,
but
exactly, not saying that those things can't happen, but the way the show has been led up to so far, and it's just it's giving that none of those things are gonna happen
sure.
because the
Claire,
show's focused on other things. Sorry.
sure. Claire says the weird part is he bought her because she's not allocated on any skill points. Then he lets her allocate all but two skills herself anyway.
Yeah.
um, the whole thing there, and he shows his power. He shows his power to the third prince of Trident, which is cool. I guess another filler stuff here.
Well, this kind of more or less sets up for Leo having leverage in that conversation of we need somebody to go take care of this demon.
Sure. So
But
that
again, it's
does
like Kelvin's already under the contract of hey, you're going to protect us and we're not going to spoil your secret. So I don't think he needed that anyways.
no, but they
It
threw it
was
in
just
there.
so Kelvin could
And
puff his chest in front of the girls?
but it was kind of cool. It was kind of funny,
It
I
was
would
funny.
say, when he was like, "Okay, I'll do it." You know what I mean? And it's like, "Okay, yeah," because he knows that Leo has the leverage, and that's pretty funny that he continues to gain leverage above him. But we do get to see the red-haired girl with wings, and we get some more information. She is Gustav's daughter, the Demon King Gustav's daughter, and they question that if he has a daughter, and he was the archdemon was like, yeah, that's her daughter, that's his daughter or whatever, and it's like, okay, cool. This is an S rank character, an S rank demon monster, whatever. And we
Mhm.
find out that this guy, like a lot of overpowered characters that we've seen, also like an overlord, where he wants to test his might and test his metal against this. But again, I really hope in this next coming episode, when they actually do fight, he is met with some resistance. He is met with some close to death or
Because here's another chance of the show turning it into an interesting situation,
Mhm.
but given everything I've already said,
Sure.
I
That's my
already
hope.
think I know where it's gonna go.
My hope is that he is forced to use his magic a lot and to be like, oh wow. But all of the characters he has under him are like 100 levels higher. It adds 100 levels, so who cares? You know, it's just going to be a squash match, pretty much. I'm pretty sure. But episode 1 through 4, would you continue if you finished episode 4? Would you keep watching?
I think episode 3 loses me, honestly.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. I
okay,
don't think I make it into episode 4. I think I'm
sure.
already off this one outside of a critique watch.
Yeah. Because also in episode 4, we kind of glossed over it, but the whole sleeping in the same bed. Eiffel says that she loves Kelvin because, of course, she got helped out by him lifting the curse of her, and then now she's his slave, I guess, and now she loves him, and she's the best, or whatever. And he has to, again, like you said, look at the collar to remember not to that this is an
The
odd situation
implications.
and not to do
The
something.
implications.
Yeah, it's the implications there, and it's really making it hard for me to like Kelvin. And
Yeah.
I feel like in this show
And
we
it's
need
because
to,
of the storytelling.
yeah.
It's
And
not
I
because of his actions, it's just these are bad situations to present our main character, the hero.
when a show is so heavily focused or needs a character to lead, they don't do it well enough for me to overjoyingly like him and wish him to do well and for him to succeed. I don't have that for him. Not saying it's not coming, not saying that I won't ever. It's just right now in these first 4 episodes, he's going to get into a fight and I'm like, oh, he's just going to squash him and just keep doing silly stuff. And it's just going to be like, okay. So until something comes up to where I overwhelmingly want him to succeed, or something comes out of his past, or he remembers something, or we find out that everything he's been told is a lie, or the resurrection goddess isn't what she says she is, or something like that, then I don't care enough for this character to for him to be put in these situations. Um, Going forward, what are some predictions and what do you hope from this anime?
My hope is that it goes down the entire path that I just explained, with Melfina actually having ulterior motives, using those heroes as a chess piece against Kelvin the summoner, who is actually going to end up working alongside the Demon King. Because if things have us see it right now, he has a slime, just a glutton slime mob in his party. He has a what was it? He has a black knight, black ghost knight in his party. He has a elf slave that was cursed in his party, and he's looking to add a succubus question mark into his party.
Mhm.
He's got a literal group of evil terrors.
Okay.
And I think that he and his group could easily be juxtapositioned as the antagonists, truly, in the long run.
That
I
would do
think
it.
that would ultimately make a more interesting story, and that's where I'm hoping things are trending. but because he's like it's not putting him in situations where he's a hero. Even at the end of the 4th episode, with him being showcased as a battle junkie, that's more of an
That's not a good
anti-hero trait
yeah,
than a
that's not
hero
a good
trait.
trait.
Yeah. He's gonna
So
intentionally escalate situations and potentially put others, those that he maybe grows to care about, at risk and put them in harm's way just for the sake of a good fight, rather than try to mitigate losses and keep things de-escalated at the end of the day.
So I do like that more. I didn't think about that as them being the evildoers eventually. Like I didn't think about them getting turned, and that sounds like a way more interesting concept that I could think of. I thought that Melfina would eventually be the bad one, and there's something that we're not, because again she's shrouded in mystery. We haven't seen her or whatever. She has these god powers that she's taking a break from. That doesn't sound right to me. So I think there's something that has to be happening with Melfina where she is the demon king and trying to become incarnated or something. So she put these people together so that she can be reincarnated as the demon queen or something like that. So that's what I thought originally, but I like your thought where it makes the audience, it's taking a while. If this is the long play, some of us would have checked out already, but if the long play is these are bad characters and eventually they're going to turn bad because of these situations that we're putting them in through, and why didn't you see it that way? Cool, that would be amazing. That would be some great storytelling. Claire says, yeah, but you're forgetting the first thing they told you. He met the goddess of reincarnation and she's hot. I think that tells us the full extent of her character. Oh yeah, that's true, fully fleshed out
That's what I
character.
mean.
My bad.
Like everything else that the show throws at me does not have me thinking that things are going to go that way. But that's where I would want things to ultimately go. That's what I would
Sure.
think would make the most interesting story, given everything we've seen so far.
Who knows? It could completely turn around, and then it becomes one of our next favorite anime. Because sometimes that's happened where we're just like kind of into it at the beginning, but then by the end, it's just such a good ride. So let's hope and let's see. Because next week we're going to be talking about 5 through 8, yeah, 5 through 8 episodes, these 4 episodes, 5 through 8 of Black
Five,
Summoner.
6, 7, 8.
Yes. Music, come on. Of Black Summoner. So if you would like, watch those episodes, or you can wait for us to recap it for you. But Matt, when you're not getting whisked away into another world, where can they find you on the internet?
You could find me anywhere that you want. You could follow me on my Twitch where I don't stream, but that'll be at Matt_Galley, or you could follow me on any of my socials at just at an ITS at the front at it's Matt_Galley. When we're just trying to exist without having this anime derail us, where can the people find you?
Jules the Human, Jules the Human, Jules the Human on all social media, on youtube.com/Jules the Human. I'm making shorts and stuff over there, on TikTok as well, Jules the Human. On Twitch, I'll be streaming Hawkeye Star Rail because I'm addicted. And we can watch this episode. If you missed any of the episode, you can go to go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jules the Human, watch it, or on Spotify. You can watch this anime podcast on Spotify, the Jules and Matt Anime Hour. It's there. You can watch the videos of it. If you have Spotify, I'll put this one up for Friday. They usually come out on Friday anyways, but we've changed our day when they come out, or when we do our live show. But I listen, I really hope some cool stuff happened. Again, I come back to that thing because like in my head, I'm like, there's no way they're making this kind of anime show in 2022 with the last seasons of anime of stuff. I mean, even though I don't like Jujutsu Kaisen, everybody loves Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, all the new anime coming out. There's no way that this came out last year with it being this the whole time. Do you know what I mean? Or at least
Yeah.
I'd hope so. I
Oh
haven't read
yeah.
I haven't read the manga, so I don't know. But
I haven't either.
I don't
Or
know. Are
even going back to parallel shows, like I got reincarnated as a slime or something like that.
we were
I've
saying
watched
before?
that up to a point to know that it at least does some things to set itself aside from isekai that are interesting and that deviate from the normal storytelling that we get from an isekai.
Mm-hmm. Can you confirm if you're hot in any of these places? No, I cannot confirm. You have to wait till the end of the season to
No
know what I
legs.
look like. Um, but I really hope there's something that sets it apart, because when you're handling an isekai, it's just um, proven ground. It's like
Yeah.
it's been done over and over, and if you bring something new to the table, it can also often revitalize the
There
genre.
there are a couple cornerstones of an isekai, um, one of them being, the character being brought to a new world. The other is the world itself. It becomes a character. And I don't think that this world is enough of a character to set itself aside and, to set itself apart and be something interesting and unique when we have so many other shows that are doing things that are far more unique. Um, which goes into the third thing, the power system and the scaling of the show, or of the new world. Uh, that's not it's doing neat things within the context of, video game mechanics, like you were talking about, certain ranks beating out other ranks and interactions between skills. But again, it's like I feel as though it's also glazing over a lot of those things because it's trying to make room for other stuff
Mhm.
that doesn't really need to be there.
And in order to make, like you said, the world a big character would be to show possible vignettes of a lot more stuff going on. I get that we got the vignettes of the characters that were already brought to the world, but like in whenever you're world building, especially in these first couple episodes, you want to go to the different factions. We already know there's different factions in this world. Go to the different factions, see what they're planning. Who's against Leo? Who is his ultimate rival? That builds off that section. What about this arch demon? Like, where
Mhm.
did he come from? What is his lineage? Show them figuring out a plan or something, him actually killing all those people, all those little demons characters, like more of that world building and vignettes of other stuff going on so you can build this overarching world. Last thing, Claire says, hard question, would you rather keep watching this or watch the second season of Duke of Death and Is Made?
I think at this
um
point I'm on watching this over that
sure, yeah.
because I've already seen what that show has to offer in the entire
That was
season.
another one where it was CG, right? Had more
Yes,
had a
but that
had,
was completely CG.
yeah,
And the CG did in a way grow on me the more I watched the show, but the second you step out of it, it's like, "Oh wow, like I think I needed new eyeballs." Like it's not a replacement. It's an alternative, and alternatives are not meant to replace something. They're something different and should be held on a different ground. And that's not true like not that it's not true animation, but it's animation of a different ilk from, what we typically talk about here on the Anime Hour.
for sure. All right. Well, next week, Black Summoner episode 5 through 8. We're going to be talking about it right here, twitch.tv/JulesTheHuman, or on YouTube or on Spotify, wherever you're watching this podcast. And we're going to watch it for you so you don't have to. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.